So Super Rugby round 10 Saturday games are almost upon us. There's a good mix of games here. Not many derbies. It's mostly a matter of kind of inter-conference games, topped off by the one South African derby at the end. All these games pretty much still important. We're about the halfway point of the season, but all of these teams still have something to play for. Even the Sunwolves, even though you might say they're only playing for pride, kind of playing to justify their spot in the comp, needing a win, although heading off to Christchurch to try and break that duck is kind of mission impossible. But yeah, let's have a look at what we got. So top versus bottom clash in the Crusaders and Sunwolves. It's kind of reigning champions up against the team on a 7-loss streak. It's not looking good if you're a Sunwolves fan. There's all but no hope for the Sunwolves here on paper. Crusaders have not been beaten in Christchurch for a very long time, and the Crusaders are unlikely to drop that record against the team who haven't even got a win at all yet. So this one seems to be a pretty foregone conclusion. In terms of squads, Sam Whitelock's being rested, so they've got Quinton Strange and Scott Barrett starting in the locks. Romano's on the bench. So it's a pretty strong statement of where the Crusaders squad is at, that you can rest Sam Whitelock and bench Luke Romano and still have a pretty nice looking second row. So Matt Todd's going to captain the Crusaders in Whitelock's absence. Ethan Blackhead is going to get his debut in the 6 jersey. Exciting young prospect player. We've seen him in the Brisbane 10s and he looked impressive. So another kind of ominous sign for a non-Crusaders fan. And yeah, that Crusaders kind of factory line of producing good players seems to continue. And if that's not kind of good enough news for the Crusaders, they've got 2 of their kind of star All Blacks back in Franks and Dag. So yeah, even without some of their top guns, the Crusaders have already got a 5-win, 2-loss record. And yeah, now they're getting some of their better players back. So we will see. Maybe it'll disrupt the flow of the squad, but you wouldn't have thought so. For the Sunwolves, Bregvadze starts in the number 2 jersey, so there's no Shotahori in the squad this week. Tanaka starts at 9 with Parker at 10, so that's a bit of a shuffle from the usual Nagare and Tamura. No Matsushima either, no Michael Leach, so yeah, it's not a full-strength Sunwolves team, and they're going into Christchurch. So I think in terms of expectations, the Crusaders absolutely must get a bonus point win. There's not going to be any kind of credit given to them for just doing that. Realistically, they'll be expected to win by 40, 50 points, perhaps score 60, who knows. You might see how many points they concede as kind of a truer test of where they're at, if anything. But realistically, for this game, for the Sunwolves, it's just about minimizing the damage and kind of trying to save a bit of face. And look to some of the games ahead, get some experience, because the bookies have got the Crusaders winning by 38 points. Yeah, so it does kind of have whitewash written all over it. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened, but not very often. In the next game, the Reds take on the Chiefs in a Trans-Tasman kind of match. Reds really need to break this streak they're on, which is 3 losses in a row. But to be fair, they haven't been at home for a long time. They haven't been at Suncorp since, I think, week 5 or week 6. So, yeah, we all know that home advantage is really important in Super Rugby, and they've got to make the most of that here. They take on the Chiefs, who have got an injury-ravaged squad, but have still been managing to kind of get the results. Not so much last week, but that was always going to be tough. So this one, I think the main thing is you've got Tupou, who's probably the main one, back for the Reds. I mean, Lucas is also back after a bit of concussion. But for the Chiefs, Tui Nukuafe replaces Ross, because Ross had a pretty horrific injury, season-ending last week. So the propping situation of the Chiefs is just getting really desperate. Sam Prattley, a former Blues player, has kind of been drafted in as emergency cover. He is on the bench. He was playing club rugby a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, they're really they're really digging deep into the propping stocks of New Zealand. So, and good news though, Tyler Ardron's back, the Canadian. He's looked really good and dynamic in what we've seen of him this season. Brad Weber is also back on the bench. So, for the Reds, I mean, they're back at home. It's a chance for them to break that Australia-New Zealand duck that the Aussie teams are on. But the Chiefs are a pretty tough opponent. You got guys like Damian McKenzie running at you. It's always going to be hard. The Chiefs have a lot of pressure to keep winning just because the New Zealand Conference is really cutthroat. Even with a record of 5-2-0, they're third behind the Hurricanes and the Crusaders. So, the pressure's not going to let up. It's kind of a must-win for them just to keep up. You got to think, though, the Red scrum has been pretty good this season. Put a lot of teams under a lot of pressure. And with the Chiefs kind of lacking in starting props, if the Reds can just convert every scrum into a penalty, you maybe give them a shot. Because the Chiefs like to throw the ball around a lot, so that leads to handling errors. Handling errors lead to scrums. If scrums can lead to penalties, hey, you never know. But the bookies have got the Chiefs by 13. So they are pretty much predicting that the Reds' bad run is going to continue even at home. Third game, Bulls v Rebels, is a game between the two second teams of each conference, so South African and Australian conference. Reds, on one hand, have kind of slipped back from first, whereas the Bulls are kind of up from the lower positions up into second. Still a long way off the Lions, though, so still a lot of work to be done. But the Lions are on tour, so while they're away, the Bulls really need to make hay and get some wins to try and catch them up. Because you got to think the Lions are going to drop a game or two on tour. I mean, you never know, they might go and win all four. But if there's a time when the Lions are more likely to lose one, it's while they're on tour. So the Rebels, like I said, their flying start has kind of petered out a bit. They're on a bit of a stuttering run at the moment. Home loss last week to the Jaguares, really disappointing. So they need to get their season back on track. Otherwise, they risk being kind of left behind by the Waratahs. In terms of selections, the Bulls have got 2 wins in a row, so the coach has taken a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of philosophy. So only one change, and it's injury enforced, is Roloff Smith coming in for Liebenberg in the back row. Whereas the Rebels have had a less than stellar run recently, so these kind of made a few changes. Reece Hodge is back, and he's in at 12. Ruru starts at 9 because Guinea is not on tour, he is injured. Cottrell starts at 7 ahead of Hardwick, who had a really bad head knock last week, and Phillip is in for Parling in the second row. So a few changes there. For the Bulls, I think this is a good chance for them to be the next team in the South African Conference behind the Lions, because, like I said, they are a wee way off. And with the other game following, the Sharks and the Stormers, they're going to need to win just to stay ahead of whoever wins that one. So crucial game for the Bulls, but likewise for the Rebels. They need to show us that they can win without Will Guinea, because he's really looked like a catalyst to much of what they're doing. So if they don't perform at the same level without him, that'll be concerning. But if they can pick up a win, and depending on what happens on this Waratahs Lions game on the Friday, they may be back first in the Aussie Conference. You never know. So we'll see. The bookies have got the Bulls by 10. So, they're picking that the Rebels aren't going to tour that well, especially without old Guinea. Final game sees the Sharks take on the Stormers. And, it's 2 teams in pretty similar positions. Sharks with 2 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Stormers 3 wins, 5 losses. Neither team's been great. Both teams have showed glimpses of what they can do, but neither have really just put in a week in, week out set of performances that you can be really happy with. For the Sharks, which team's going to show up? The team which beat the Blues easily and pushed the Hurricanes to the 80-odd minute? Or is it going to be the team who toured Australia, or the team who kind of capitulated against the Bulls last week? Frustrating if you're a Sharks fan. Like, at least as a Blues fan, I know that I'm going to get rubbish every week. For the Sharks, it's a bit more of a coin toss. For the Stormers, I feel for them having a really hard schedule, a lot of injuries. They toured early. They haven't had a bye until last week. So it's been a hard run, but they've had the bye now. They've got some players back. Haven't been able to win away. So this will be a test for them to see how they can go in Durban. But But yeah, for the Sharks, there's still no Beast. He's not available. But Dan Dupree is back. The number 9 swap with Wright in for Schroeder, and Mapimpi is back. So that's good. He's kind of an excitement player. So hopefully he can get some ball and do something amazing, because he is that kind of player in for Mvovo. Stormers, they've moved the pack around as well. So Notchi starts ahead of Nizam Kar. Lades is in at 15, so SP Maria is not starting. Craig Berry's in the wing, and he looked good from what I've seen of him, although it's been pretty limited. And Duvanacha is back at 9, so that should help with what the team is kind of all about. So yeah, the Bulls and Sharks are both on 14 points in the South African Conference. The Stormers on 13. So if the Bulls win, and whoever loses this game is really in big trouble. They're just going to be pushed right down. If the Bulls lose, then whoever wins this game kind of becomes that next team in the South African Conference. So pretty big ramifications this week for kind of how these results fall. But we'll see. Both teams really need to win in this last game. Whoever loses may be condemned to kind of another lost season, but we will see. Sharks by 2 is what the bookies are saying. So we'll see how things go. What do you guys reckon about these games? Who do you think is going to win? How much are the Sunwolves going to be beaten by the Crusaders? Can they, like I said, save a bit of face and not get absolutely thrashed? Chiefs without so many props, can they just keep on like finding more ways to win? And these last 2 games, who do you think is going to win? By how much? What do you reckon? I reckon there should be some pretty good performances and possibly a bit of handbags on in the final game, because the pressure is really on in both these teams. So we will see. Like I said, let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys again for the reviews of the games tomorrow. See ya.